Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
We meet on the internet. I'm well. How are you?
Good. Here, just to kind of connect about, what's been going on. You've been busy, haven't you?
Yeah. Things have been good. I mean, actually a little bit more on the sales side than the rental side currently, but with relocation folks for sure.
Yeah, nice. What kind of trends are you seeing right now on the relocation side?
After all the tech companies in the area kind of made the announcement and pushed their coming back date from September 1st to January 1st, we had a little bit of quietness. It was nice to have a little break because everybody was coming pretty fast and hard when they all thought they had to be here by September. But I think that gave everybody kind of a breather. So October, was steady, but it wasn't insane like we saw over the summer. But now it's starting to tick back up. I think people are starting to realize the holidays are right around the corner, and January 1's part of that. So, so now that we're kind of entering into October, people starting to get serious again. So I think mid-October to mid-November is going to be nuts.
Yeah. And the companies really haven't stopped hiring. I mean, they're basically, they've been plowing through the whole year, very consistent with hired. Yeah. Is there a certain sector that you're seeing that, or like company that's hiring more than the other right now?
Yeah, they seem to go through their ebbs and flows. Right now, kind of the aviation sector in the area seems to kind of be my biggest client, which I was a little surprised about as well. But I guess maybe travel is back. I think people also, some of the local companies are also branching off more into that space side of things versus just, normal planes and such. So I'm seeing a lot of engineers that are a little bit more specialized in that department coming through. And then biotech. Biotech has pretty steadily been one of our biggest through the last 6 months, but specifically as well now, for sure.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And actually that's interesting about like the space. Makes sense because they're branching out and having to hire more people and, like you said, more specialized people. So that's bringing a whole other sector group here, for sure. Are they primarily looking at renting at first? Or are we seeing more kind of stepping into the shoes of purchasing out the gate?
We are seeing more in the purchasing side, a little bit more, especially the biotech folks. They seem to be a little bit more established and maybe have a little bit more on their plate that they just don't want to worry about it later. So, definitely where we usually see, I would say 5 to 10% of our relocations coming in to purchase straight away. That certainly is probably bumped up closer to that 15% for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
And is there a certain area in which they're coming from? Like, is it East Coast, California, or is it like just everywhere?
Kind of everywhere. You see definitely contingency from the East Coast, more of the colleges, more college age folks kind of having their first job. I'm seeing more of the established folks are kind of more coming from like the Midwest, Colorado, that sort of thing. And certainly Texas and California are always big heavy hitters for sure.
Have we seen any really Gates Foundation or any of those type of companies? With the
Gates, Allen Institute's probably a big one for us right now. Over in Salt Lake Union, they specialize in cell therapy and kind of brain science. We're getting a couple new folks from biotech companies I haven't heard of before, but are down in that South Lake Union corridor as well. So we've had a couple people reach out to us and hire us independently. We don't have necessarily relationships already established with their companies, so they're finding us and bringing us in. So yeah, I think the biotech sector, certainly there's a little bit of kind of like the space, all these tech sectors are starting to kind of bubble up with little space things. Yeah. Now we're seeing little shoot offs of the biotech as well, but it's great. It's exciting.
Yeah. That's awesome. Are they looking specifically, you think rental houses? It probably obviously depends on the company, kind of depends on who the employee is, and then also resulting in what type of property they want. But are you seeing, let's just speak, I guess, general for downtown Seattle, for the apartment buildings and stuff, are you seeing a lot of folks coming who are being hired, but let's say Amazon, just as an example, are those folks wanting to be right in the heart of the city, or are they kind of considering surrounding neighborhoods?
No, most of the folks are coming into the city. I think that's what's promoting a little bit more buyers than renters right now than before, because the folks that would commonly look for a single family home or a townhome for rent are realizing the market is really, really tight for those options, as well as the escalating price because of the limited inventory. So they just are, gosh, if I'm going to spend this much in rent, I might as well buy something and have a better deal in that respect. So I think that because of the lack of inventory of the houses and townhomes, and a lot of people seem to know that seems to be pretty universal across the country, not just kind of to our market. So folks are kind of going into the purchasing side because of that. But the people who do come through our rental channel, most of them are looking for those apartments. They're looking for the walkability, mostly in the downtown corridor, unless there's like kind of a budget. You know, people coming from the Midwest are not quite adjusted to those Seattle prices. So although they might be able to afford it with their new positions, they just kind of don't want to. So that's where we see people that are pushing out a little bit further.
Yeah. Are they coming in, or anyone saying, hey, I want to be in the islands, or I want to be, you know, an hour away of Seattle, which would put them over, you know, the pass or whatnot on that side? Or no, we're not seeing much
not
of that
at all.
Yeah. Gotcha. So people
are
becoming more centralized then, and wanting to be kind of in their hub space, versus last year we were seeing people kind of spreading out. So interesting.
People are definitely much more worried about that commute time again than they were during COVID. So I think those report back to office dates are really kind of sinking in. So most people definitely are trying to stay within a bus ride or a walk if possible.
Gotcha. That's good news.
Yeah.
What other trends are you seeing? Anything that, going into the new year, I'm sure we now are starting to get new folks that are kind of planning for just after the new year. I'm assuming that kind of hiring and everything is just going to plow right into 2022, and kind of feels like we'll have a strong year on the relo side next year too.
Yeah, I believe so. I kind of feel like COVID's actually taken out our date ranges, where we're so used to this market of being very busy in the summer and great in the spring, and then winter we're very quiet. I think that it's just neutralized time of year completely with COVID and working from home and having that flexibility. So I think, after the holidays, I think we'll see another push, because again, I think people will just want to stay hunkered down wherever they're at for those Thanksgiving and Christmas and such, and try to do as least amount of moving and traveling. So I think we're going to see a pop here, mid-October through mid-November, and then we'll probably see just normal volume till January, and then we'll get hit again.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, that's, I think, what is driving our market as a big portion of it right now in our recovery, is the relo piece. And just as you said it, as things get more expensive, and again, the housing market is, hasn't slowed down, rental rates recovered quite well, and, are going, kind of to record rates, definitely pre-COVID we're seeing for downtown. And so as those go up, people do look for the condos, for the townhomes, kind of those alternative housing, because, single family is just getting too kind of wacky. And also on the rental side, to find a rental single family home is probably, near impossible sometimes.
It is. And then we get a lot of folks that might want to come in with like a roommate scenario or multiple pets. And that's great. And Seattle is very pet friendly, but when an owner has 20, 50 applications, so to speak, or potential applicants for a rental, those folks are certainly kind of getting pushed to the back of the line if they're not jumping on as the first application. So it definitely is a little bit less inventory, a little bit harder to get into those. Townhomes in the rental side is almost as crazy as the single families, unlike the sales side. So thankfully, again, people just kind of realize that and have gone into the apartment scenario, which also makes them feel a little less permanent, which again brings in that conversation about buying pretty quickly compared to what we're used to in the past.
Yeah, especially if they're coming from a house and they move into an apartment, it just won't feel like home quite to them until they get into an actual home space. Yeah, that makes sense. Are there any special requests that you're finding? Let's say, people moving from the East Coast and they're like, oh, what are the different, for the apartment specific, different features that maybe that they have that our apartments don't, or our like apartment inventory is pretty up to date and offering fabulous, amenities and stuff that they're expecting?
A lot of people don't come in with a lot of amenity requests. I think Seattle is one of the markets that has really nice, rich amenity style buildings, where folks coming from a Boston or Chicago or an LA, or even a San Francisco, they're not used to having the craziness that we have with bowling alleys and beer making rooms and such.
Yeah.
So it's more usually about space, making sure that they can carve out an office space. We were so focused on building these open 1-bedrooms for like the last 10 years because they were efficient space and people were going to go out and have happy hour and go for a run or what have you, or not spending a ton of time in their homes. Now that that's a different perspective, people seem to be a little less interested in those open 1-bedrooms and want that large space.
Yeah. So the mentality has shifted a little bit. Well, it is interesting. You brought that up. It's a good point. People that are from, Boston, LA, they're not used to, having the rooftop deck and all the amenities that go with it too. So it's probably less, and those are the people that are coming here. So that is something that's less top of mind to them. And they are more about they're in tune with their actual living space itself. Yeah. Good thought.
Everybody's just kind of preparing for that potential, if we have to get locked down again, they just want to be a little bit more prepared this time around.
Yep. Yeah. And it's kind of living and also along the outlook of work from home. Even though these, companies are going to be bringing people back, just after the new year, it's like, well, what does that look like? Is it, work from home 2 days a week? Is it 3 days? And so they naturally have to kind of carve out that space and look to the future on that front too.
Absolutely. But that's why they still want walkability. It's because of only being in an office 2 or 3 days, they want to be able to get out of their space and walk and grab lunch or a cup of coffee or something.
And there's something to be said about, you're living off the vibe that's around you too. So even though you're in your home so much, you want to be able to walk outside and then there be action. There's, people on the streets, there's different things that are kind of going on and that are accessible to you, within your community, whether it's downtown or in the sub neighborhoods. Right. So it just kind of depends, but I don't think that that's something that will ever change. It's always location.
Yeah.
We just had a little blip where it's like, we don't care where we're at. Space.
Yeah. We had a quick panic mode, but then once people kind of got back to normal or got back to the sense of life coming back, people want to be back in the city. I mean, Seattle was the city that grew the most through COVID. We moved in more people than any other city in the country during COVID. So people are coming and people still want the city.
Totally.
Who could blame them?
Yeah. Are you doing a fair amount of virtual tours versus physical? Or are you seeing a lot more? You're seeing physical tours too?
In the beginning of COVID, definitely more virtual than it was in person. But as people started getting vaccinated and that becoming more of a normal situation, we're definitely seeing more folks doing in-person tours for sure.
Got it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say, COVID was easily probably 75% virtual versus 25% in person. And of course that was even barely in person. That was more driving separately and kind of opening a door and letting them go in on their own. So everybody had really nice space and distance with one another. But yeah, as people are getting more comfortable and getting vaccinated, we're definitely getting to be with our clients a little bit more and have that connection. Apartment buildings are actually starting to have leasing agents show you around. Some of the major companies are still just going straight self-guided tours. And I don't think they're going to ever switch back. I think they just kind of mastered that system in their opinion and just kind of leaving it as is. But some of the other, go ahead.
Oh, do you like that system? Is that something that you like, the self-guided tours, or would you rather meet with a leasing agent?
It's for me, it's 6 of one, half dozen another. I have a tendency to know these buildings a little bit more than the leasing agents a lot of times, just because I've been doing this a long time. However, I think what's a disservice to the client is if they gave us 2 units, like these will be great for you, go take a look at them. And if we get there and those are not great apartments, I can't offer what else the building has. I don't have their projections of what is coming available or know every single unit and every single view just to be able to say, oh gosh, if this one doesn't work, we should go with this one. So where I can show someone around the building and the amenities and really give them a good idea, I can't really drill down to specific units because I just don't work there. So there are times we'll take clients into an apartment building where I think the building is a great fit. And they're like, gosh, I just don't like this apartment, and off we go. And I don't have an opportunity to recover that for the leasing agent because I just don't know. Got
it. So yeah, it's more so you just not having all the information readily available.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is pretty interesting to have these buildings do. And regardless, I guess the self-guided tours, let's say if someone that doesn't have an agent who's going through, right? It's just, just going in and looking at the apartments. They kind of just don't know anything, right?
Yeah.
So it's probably very kind of confusing at first. But
yeah, I mean, if it was a situation where there's one apartment available or two apartments available, take it or leave it, then it makes complete sense. But a lot of these buildings don't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're aware of all the development that's going on the top of Denny and Boren, all the so those will be maturing here pretty soon too. And I imagine we'll be kind of touring and working with those folks as well. But that's going to be quite a glut of inventory sitting there on top of the hill. So I wonder if they're going to be doing self-guided tours and how that's going to work, or if they're going to actually have leasing staff. I know one of them, Ren, has a leasing office there that's open now. But I think that's going to be an interesting little kind of as a case study for downtown apartments, because there's, again, so many coming up in one spot, but it is in a sense building its own little micro community, because all the buildings have really nice amenities and features, like the one that West Bank is doing. Has the fuselage in the middle, and they're going to make it a music venue. And then you have, all these fancy restaurant spaces and all that sort of thing. So it'll be kind of very interesting to see how that all comes together. But then also all the buildings are really beautiful too. So they all have like architectural elements that I think when you look at that part of the city and how it's meshing with Nexus, because Nexus is also a really beautiful building. Is it Arc Amley that's on the corner? I can't remember which of Boren and Minor, I think. Yeah.
That's actually connects, but Amley Arc's right behind it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a beautiful building too that kind of has some architectural elements. So you look at that, this from the skyline or driving through the city, that whole pocket will look very like new and fancy and just like kind of like new age. So it'll be very interesting to see who flocks to kind of that style, because it's definitely going to be a lifestyle, I think.
And that area is definitely resonating to folks. Seattle gets a lot of bad press because of the homeless situation in Seattle. So folks that want that walkability, want that city life, seem to feel a little bit more comfortable in that corridor because everything's a little bit shiny and new, and you're incorporating big businesses who often have security guards kind of sitting outside the building, which, keeps the sidewalks moving along. And so I'm finding people who are new to city living as well as living in Seattle are really, really interested in that area. They feel more comfortable living there.
That makes sense. I literally have had this conversation with 2 or 3 other people just in the last couple of days that were like, yeah, it just feels like on that side, it's more, I guess it's cleaner and newer. And so that's how I've been kind of talking to people about that area. I think it's maybe a little bit definitely quieter at night because it's a different vibe completely. But it will have, once those buildings come together, it'll have some vibrancy to the street levels and stuff like that. So
and adding the PCC, I think will be great. And I was down there, like a month or so ago, running some errands I went to West Elm for an errand and just took the opportunity because I had a parking space on the street just to kind of mosey around the blocks a little bit, because I just don't spend a lot of time there because there is no nightlife and no other reason to pop by. And I was really intrigued by the stores and the retail that has been selected, to see like a Sub Pop, record store in the middle of the shiny and new. That really caught me off guard. But I love to see that we're still keeping a little bit of Seattle edge, even in the shiny, pretty parts.
The new age, we still have a little bit of that Seattle grunge.
Gotta have our grunge.
You gotta have that grunge. Yeah, that's good. Did you tour the Rainier Square? I couldn't remember if you were there for that. Yeah, that was beautiful. I'll probably get down there at some point to pop in. But anyways, going back to the Relo side, is there anything else you kind of want to touch on? I think we did a pretty good job just kind of giving an overview, but anything else come to mind?
I mean, I'm excited with a lot of these new buildings. Like you said, we're seeing some pretty massive towers coming online, a couple already pre-leasing and some that are coming down the pike. So I think that's going to help the rental scenario. I mean, like you mentioned before, we bounced back from COVID, if not even more. Rental prices are more than we've ever seen in the area. And a lot of that's that supply and demand factor. So I'm excited to see more inventory come online to kind of stabilize things a little bit. Because there's, especially the folks that are looking to move here during COVID, gosh, they're having big sticker shocks. I mean, you're looking at almost $1,000 variance between an apartment from February of last year to now.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too. And I know the new ordinance that the city is trying to pass with the 180-day, just kind of the rental increase thing is still up for talks. I don't think the mayor's signed it quite yet, but that is kind of a big reason why they wanted to put that into play, is because of the sticker shock from the people that did rent during COVID, because it went down so much. I mean, I think like 30% is what I saw from just my figures, and then shot right back up. And that when it started to shoot back up, it was very instant.
Very instant.
Yeah. And like, units. And at one point we were talking about one at the Insignia, which, we rented a 2-bedroom, let's say we had to drop it all the way down to 3,200, all of a sudden went right back up to 3,900, like overnight. And there was multiple applications. So it's just kind of a funny little thing, but we are seeing, I think on the rental side now, last 2 weeks have been a little bit slower. And I think this is again, to what you were just saying, the relo side kind of, turned the spigot, kind of was a little bit, turned off or whatever. It was a little bit quiet for you too. And I think those just kind of go so hand in hand right now, because the way our market is reacting to COVID and recovering is primarily based on the relo side. Because we did lose, a lot of locals last year to the downtown core. And there's a couple different mentalities too that are out there. And I've actually this morning getting another conversation is Seattle's seeing a new wave of demographics and population. Just, it's morphing and it's in a growing phase right now. And so a lot of the people that have been here for years and years and years kind of look at Seattle and have been like, oh, it's so horrible. Maybe, what happened during COVID, we're moving out, blah, blah. And that demographic, they're not even seeing the new influx of people that are coming in. So they not actually just think everyone's exiting, but really we have a whole new vibrant group of people that are coming to the area that, Seattle's new to them. It's kind of a blank slate, right? And so they're making their own. And so we're just seeing this transition, which is kind of cool.
It is cool. And they're all so excited. I mean, they're all so excited. I interact with so many different people moving here and just trying to help them find which neighborhood and which area. And I always ask, are you excited for the move? Is this a great, is this good news for you? And 99% of them, I think I've only come across one person who is a little bummed out about moving to Seattle, but gosh, everybody else is just chomping at the bits. They're so excited for our nature and how clean our city is, and the arts and the entertainment and the food. And that, again, that just makes it exciting for me again too. I love Seattle. I love the city, and it's great to see the passion in all these new people's eyes to make our city vibrant again. Yeah,
totally. I love that. Good. Well, I think that we pretty much covered everything. I always love talking to you, Kim. You have always great insights, and I mean, what's going on here on the front line there. So,
this is you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time, and for all you guys that do watch this video. If you have any questions about the relo side of things, obviously reach out to Kim. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And we'll give you another update in maybe a couple months, right after the holidays into the new year, and just kind of let people know how 2021 fared out, and hope for the best for 2022.
Yeah. Have great holidays, everybody.
Cool. All right, Kim, have a good one. We'll see you later.